Hello, Moody Gooners. Welcome to the next episode, or the latest episode, should I say, depending on when you're watching it, of course, of the Moody Gooners podcast. I'm joined, as ever, with Jason. How are you, sir?
I'm good. You'd have to excuse the face. I had an argument with the wall, so, sorry about the appearance, but yes, I'm okay. I'm here. A little bit deflated, obviously, after the game, but yeah, we're here. Lots to go over, lots to dissect.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Before we do so, just a little bit of housekeeping, as we like to say it. So, mission statement is basically an Arsenal podcast with a difference. The difference being combining our love for all things Arsenal with the importance of mental health and keeping that very much at the top of the agenda. So where that links together is through our predictions. So whenever we get our predictions wrong, which is basically every single week at the moment, we will donate some money to charity at the end of the season. So that's kind of where the hook is. But yeah, today we're going to dive into the North London derby and playing the absolute pond life scum up the road at N17 there. Dissecting the game in a bit of detail, and just I feel I've sort of woke up this morning feeling kind of none the wiser really, and sort of still feeling a bit kind of confused about how I feel about the whole thing. But we're going through that today, plenty to cover off. So without further ado, let's jump into it. I mean, I think overriding feeling really was obviously very much one of deflation, almost like a defeat. I would say almost feeling. A draw feeling very much like a defeat. I mean, we still got a draw out of it. We obviously didn't play very well, but what we sort of thoughts going into the game, I think part of the sort of feeling of deflation, but among the Arsenal fans, is probably down to the fact we were all feeling quietly confident. Sort of the narrative before about Spurs, playing progressive football and us being able to pick that off quite easily. But what were your sort of feelings going into it, and then obviously looking at the lineups?
Well, I mean, before the game, I mean, we watched it together. For those out there, we were sat side by side, living every moment of yet another dramatic North London derby, as they always are. There's never a dull one. Before the game, I was a bit relaxed, and then the moments before, I started getting really sort of like, oh crap. But like genuinely, like the build up and everything, the week building up to it. Obviously, we had the game at PSV and we smashed them, and I thought, oh, finally it's clicked. And I was expecting much of the same, because I thought Spurs are going to come at us. They're going to play a bit more on the front foot, want to get on the ball, and I thought that's going to play into our hands. We've unlocked the door. The mojo's there. We've had that performance in midweek. And I was very much in the Paul Merson camp of, if Spurs turn up like that, we're going to just destroy them. And I honestly believe that was going to be the case. Obviously
we saw
not.
The lineup before, obviously not. I mean, we'll get into it, but I mean, like jumping into the lineups for a second. Obviously, we had the pre-match Arsenal curse of a player dropping like a fly before the game even started.
Yeah.
Leandro Trossard was out with some kind of muscular tightness or issue from training the previous day. We saw Jesus and kind of predominantly taking over that left-hand side of the attacking front line with Eddie up the middle. Raya, I think, now has confirmed himself as number one, having obviously got the nod over Aaron Ramsdale for this game. And then I think the other piece of the starting lineup was Vieira kind of being given a much, I personally thought he may have started against PSV, so it might have been a good game for him to come into, but Vieira being given the nod to start ahead of Kai Havertz in that left-hand number 8 role. But sort of what were your sort of feelings about the lineup when it came through? I think obviously disappointment with the Trossard piece, but a lot of people talking about maybe Nelson coming in instead of Nketiah and playing out on a wide area with Jesus up the middle. I got to admit, I was pretty deflated because it just feels like whenever there's a big game coming up, it just you sort of find out the day before or the day of the game that one of your top players is out again. And obviously Trossard sort of found a little bit of form this season. He's probably one of our top sort of on-form attacking players. This season, but
he'd very much sort of put his put himself into the mix for a starting berth, and obviously with Martinelli out, you were thinking, oh, actually, it's not that much of a downgrade, and he has different qualities to Martinelli. I think he's a bit more technical, whereas Martinelli's a bit more direct. Disappointing to hear that he wasn't in the starting lineup. I thought having Jesus out wide would be okay. But again, question marks over Nketiah and how effective he can be. And that played out exactly the way, as I thought it would. There are question marks still over Eddie Nketiah. I think they've been there for a while. They don't tend to go away. He has little bursts where he scores for a few games in a row. But like a game, I mean, the Spurs game, he went missing. He wasn't there for half the time. So a lot of question marks over him still. The Vieira one over Havertz. Well, I think my feeling on Kai Havertz. I think we've lumped ourselves with a 65 million pound problem in so much as we're not going to get that money back. That money's gone. It's like driving a new car off the forecourt. It depreciates the moment it leaves the forecourt. And I think that's what's happened with Kai Havertz here.
I feel like we bought a cut and shut, to be honest with you, because he was always damaged goods. Damaged goods coming off the back of Chelsea, and I feel like we've paid new car prices for a cut and shut, and then driven that off the forecourt at the moment. I mean, I've tried to be a bit patient. With Havertz, but yesterday I found myself just getting quite. I kind of saw it as an opportunity, for him to step up, and he's just lacks any kind of personality and determination on the pitch, from what I can see. And people go on about his languid style, but I don't know. He's got a face like a serial killer. He just sort of expressionless, emotionless. He doesn't seem to sort of like. No, but he's got this sort of cold, dead look on his face, and I just want to kind of just go, come on, man! Like, this is North London derby. Look, there's plenty to play for here. You can be a middling kind of Arsenal player, and if you do something special in the North London derby, people will remember you for generations. So,
come on, hero. I mean, the problem is that I don't see that he offers anything different, or even offers anything that we haven't already got, or that somebody is more willing to give. I just don't see it, and even when he came on yesterday, apart from that, there was that one opportunity, wasn't there? And it was like, maybe this is the moment, and then no, it just goes miles over. He lashes wildly at it. So,
it wasn't an easy chance, that one, but it's one of those. I mean, to be honest, if he's not going to score a tap in from inside the box, he's not exactly going to lash that one into the top corner. But yeah, it was unfortunate. It was unfortunate. I mean, and back to the point around Eddie, the area that where do you kind of stand on this idea that people are saying we need a different kind of player up front to Jesus? Because to me, Nketiah he is kind of at odds with what we've got in the rest of the team, but he does actually offer something different to Jesus, which is kind of what fans have been wanting. But on the other hand, you really notice the difference when Jesus came in against PSV, and you really notice, what he brings from knitting everything together. We become like an attacking unit when he plays, as opposed to a bunch of individuals. Whereas, Nketiah is pretty ruthless, in the box. But there was that point in the second half yesterday where, Gary Neville was wetting his pants about it, but him not sort of arriving at the far post from a corner. And making which I kind of think is kind of fair, because that's the kind of thing we expect Nketiah to do, is to sniff out those little kind of pockets of space in the box and anticipate. So, where do you kind of stand on this idea that he does offer something different, but maybe it's not necessarily in keeping with what we're trying to do as kind of a collective?
It's not consistent enough. I don't think he has the quality to be a top 4 Premier League striker. I don't think he's got that quality. Maybe somewhere like Newcastle, I could see him making it. But, if we've got proper strong aspirations of like winning a league title, going far in the Champions League, we need someone that we can rely on. I know the comment you're on about with Gary Neville. He was like making the comparison to Ian Wright. Just Ian Wright would be there, he'd be busy, he would make himself known, and there didn't seem to be that urgency. He almost seemed a little bit disconnected from the game. There was, and if you look back even to that challenge he did on Vicario, I mean, I think that's out of pure frustration. I think he cut a full on figure at the top there. It just wasn't happening for him, and I do think that Jesus means that we play more, as you said, like a unit. But Eddie, I don't think he's not clinical enough. I think back to the Palace game as well, those chances that he scuffed there. He had an early chance as well here as well in this game. I just don't see it. And I think we're being found out a bit because we're a bit short now, it looks like, because he's not really doing it at top. And so a lot is going to fall onto Jesus. And, obviously there seem to be a few injuries stacking up at the moment. So it's like things are looking a bit thin again.
Although today they did announce, there was a story put out there that Declan Rice's calf strain / back injury or whatever it's kind of reported in two parts of his body, but apparently it's not. Apparently he might have had a back spasm or something like that, but apparently it's
nothing serious.
He's going to play at the weekend. They reckon it's Bournemouth. That's what they're saying. But so that's obviously good news if that's if that kind of comes to pass. And I would hope that Martinelli should be back soon, shouldn't he? Maybe a week or so. But I think we need someone on that left hand attacking. I love Trossard. I think he's brilliant, but I think him or Martinelli need to kind of be there. And then I think Reece Nelson again. He looked neat and tidy. I mean, he didn't really set the world alight or anything, but I thought he looked good against PSV, and I thought he looked neat and tidy on that left hand side. Works hard. He works hard to track back, and he looks, he combines well off that left flank as well. So I'd be more than happy to see Reece Nelson start against Bournemouth if the other two lads aren't fit to start.
The other elephant in the room, why not ESR? Why not Smith Rowe? I mean, he did it in the summer during the under-21s. He got a paltry 4 minutes or so yesterday, which was. It almost seemed a bit, a bit of a joke, really. It's like, well, why, he's not going to do anything in that sort of time. It's, you
could argue there's often 10 minutes of extra time now, so he arguably had 15 minutes. But I get your point. Like it was, it almost looks like a derisory thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I think why not put him on after maybe with 10 minutes to go or 15 minutes to go and give him a good 25 minutes. To have a go at it, because it wasn't working as it was, and but it's funny with Arteta. He sort of made because apparently the Vieira substitution was tactical as well. It wasn't an injury, so he's burnt through two substitutes at half time, and then one right at the end there, which is just really really late. But let's dive into the game, shall we? Like, what were we thinking? I mean, the sort of first 10 minutes, I sort of noticed Tottenham are giving me the sort of Man United Andre Onana vibes of sort of Vicario, the keeper there, just holding the ball at his feet, almost wanting us to go and close him down. Because people were saying before the game, Tottenham might come on and come and have a bit of a go at us, but then I also heard another rumour that maybe in other games they started off a bit cautious and then slowly worked their way into the game. But I think Tottenham tactically was spot on, because what they did was they completely silenced the crowd in the first 15 minutes. There were moments where we wanted to kind of press and try and win the ball, but we weren't really getting. I mean, Jesus had his chance, but we didn't get huge amounts of joy with that pressing at the beginning. And Tottenham holding the ball, it stopped us kind of. I mean, I'm not a big fan of controlling possession for possession's sake, but we couldn't even get on the ball to make anything happen. I think it quietened the crowd down a lot, and I think it was actually quite a good tactic to take into a North London derby, where often the home fans are actually, if you look at the records in this fixture in the last 10 years, the home side has always pretty much won the game. So I think it's quite a good tactic for Spurs to A, quieten the crowd down, and B, kind of try and invite us on and sort of try and play over the top of us or through us and get up the other end of the pitch on transition. But what was your take on sort of the early knockings of this one?
I mean, I knew this. What I didn't want to happen exactly happened. You know, I wanted us to come flying out the blocks, press them, get that early goal, get the crowd going, whip it all up, and for us just to control the game. And what actually happened was quite surprising. Tottenham, I mean, to their credit, I mean, I was very surprised. They sat really, really deep, the edge of their penalty box, pinging the ball around. And yes, there were some mistakes, but they managed to sort of play their way out of trouble for the most part of it. And they controlled the ball. And as you say, it was impossible for us to even get a foothold in the game, really. We did manage to, there were a couple of, nicked sort of challenges here and there, and us closing down and getting a few little deflections, for the, ball running loose or whatever, but nothing really to write home about. We had the sort of the chance for Jesus, at the back post from the Saka cross, which was a fabulous save. Credit where credit's due. It was a great save by Vicario. But I mean, apart from that, we didn't really carve anything out. And I think Spurs did a great job in nullifying, that early threat and that sort of that explosive start that we all hoped would come, but never did. So yeah, it was just difficult for us to get a hold of the ball and effectively put a stamp on the game. It's quite a frenetic and frantic start. It felt a bit like we were running around headless chickens, just trying to get the ball. And it was like there wasn't much control there.
The pressing as well was not coordinated that well, I noticed.
Yeah.
I sort of noticed that one of the players would go, but then on very few occasions was that player joined by one or two of his teammates trying to kind of close off all the passing lanes and things like that. But I still would say though, in the first sort of half an hour that we didn't have any. I think they had greater possession than us for the game and the rest of it. But I do still think that the best chances did still fall to us at the end of the day. I mean, we had Jesus went in and robbed Maddison.
Yeah.
He then it would have looked spectacular had it flown in the net, but you just wanted him to. He did quite well in a way to kind of be able to revert. He was kind of coming onto the ball quite wide. And he was able to then reverse it back the other way, which is kind of interesting. But
I think that
pass it into the corner.
Yeah, that shot, that chance for Jesus when he nicked it off Maddison, I think that was his own undoing because he tried to reverse it across goal. If he'd gone a little bit more where it was more natural to hit the ball, I mean, I think he needed to get over the ball a bit more anyway because he was sort of leaning back into it. But, he had that chance and obviously the earlier chance. He had two golden opportunities, and I think this is why I feel deflated because on reflection today, having looked back at the highlights and, studied it a little bit more, I do think we could have been out of sight in the first half. We could have been 2 up and, Spurs coming back from 2 goals down is a complete different kettle of fish, from being a goal down. It in a North London derby going 2-0 up, it's like, the other team has to really pull a rabbit out of a hat to get back in the game at that point, especially being the away team. So it's just disappointing because I just think that we could have on another day. It could have been so much different, and if those chances had gone in, it just would have been. It's just annoying because I know it's there. It was there last season, but for whatever reason, it's just not clicking at the moment.
Yeah, and we had Nketiah running into the box and try to score from an impossible angle when Vieira kind of arrived.
Yeah.
We arrived and we had Udogie got booked quite early on. He was having a very shaky first half an hour and I feel like we were trying to exploit that. So we were giving the ball to Saka a lot in the first half an hour, and he that ultimately unlocked our opening goal on the day. But I do feel, I mean, we'll get into the second half in a bit, but I do feel that was, we stopped playing in Saka so much, and in the end, Udogie was able to kind of get
get back
quite
into
comfortable and play himself into a bit more rhythm in the game. But yeah, I do feel like we had the most clear-cut chances, to be honest, in that first half. I just think, a combination of good goalkeeping, but mainly poor finishing and poor decision making in that final action in and around the box is just not. It's just not working at the moment. I don't know if we're trying to overthink it. I don't know if it's a lack of quality. With Nketiah's one, I kind of feel that was just slightly boneheaded. I mean, you've just got to bury that chance. You've just got to square that ball. Jesus tried to be a bit too fancy, perhaps, and obviously Vicario had the save, but we had the goal. I mean, Saka sort of cut in, didn't connect with the shot in the best. It didn't really get around it. Yeah, and then Romero, one of the most despicable players in the Premier League for my money anyway, put his leg out and couldn't get his feet sorted out and kneed it into the side netting to give us a good start. From that point, you're sort of thinking, right, first goal of the game, like we're in now, we're in business.
Yeah.
And we just didn't really capitalise. Well, obviously we didn't, because we didn't end up winning the game, but we never really capitalised on that.
Yeah, I mean, Saka, I said it a lot yesterday, but he had a doggy on toast for the entire game. And, we should have targeted him more, because once he picked up that booking, there was another booking in there for that player. Saka could have gone past him, taken him a bit. It was great that he sort of pulled in and got the goal and stuff, but I do think there was definitely a weakness there that we should have exploited more as the game went on, that we didn't. The goal, yeah, brilliant, great effort. It was going wide, which is obviously why it was given as an OG from Romero, who just shanked his knee at it. But yeah, once that had gone in, I thought, oh, here we go. We're going to kick on now. We've got the goal, within half an hour or so. I mean, I was worried as time was ticking on that it wasn't going to happen, but it did go in, and I was expecting big things, but yeah, we just didn't. It didn't kick on from there. We sort of we sort of left the door a bit open for Spurs. They had that chance, and it was a big save from Raya. The Johnson shot. It was he didn't connect with it very well, but nevertheless it was on target, and you spotted it as well. But Raya's starting position, he wasn't even in the goal. He was like so far past the near post when the cross came in. For him to get across and claw that sort of shot out was, it gave me like Seaman vibes, from the Paul Pescasolido, the cup game. It was incredible save to claw that out. Very impressive. And obviously then the camera pans to Ramsdale, who's it's just it almost feels like it's too scripted. Like he's done his little clap in the air. It's like he knows that the camera's going to pan to him at that point. It just feels a little bit. Do you think there's much in it, or do you think it's a bit disingenuous? Do you think he's playing up for the cameras a bit there?
Yeah, I kind of like we were sort of laughing about it, weren't we? But it felt like he almost knew that he was. I don't know if he's watching on an iPad in front of him or something, but it was almost like he timed it to perfection. Because he knew that he was on the screen, and the weird thing is he was doing the right kind of body, right kind of stuff. He was kind of clapping, great save, trying to boost his team, be seen to be boosting his teammate up in kind of, during the game while the cameras were on him. But it was done in a way, there was a comedic element to it.
Yeah,
for some reason it was kind of funny to watch, but it's a shame really, because it was a good save. I mean, it gave me Seaman vibes as well, dare I say. But then obviously it's an interesting. I sort of felt like as the first half went on, I was almost seeing them get. I don't know if they got kind of a kick from the fact that Jesus fluffed his lines, and they could probably see us. It gave them a bit of confidence, seeing that we were not that kind of. Not that clinical. So we had Raya again sort of involved. I mean, I personally don't think Raya had a bad game. There's a few people saying, oh, his distribution and blah blah blah, but I think he was neat and tidy. He made a great save. I do think he could have done better for the for Tottenham's first goal.
Yeah.
To be honest, because he sort of palms the ball kind of straight back into danger as opposed to getting a good strong. You almost want like a fist on that ball.
He could have just
punched
flicked
out towards the,
maybe even
yeah,
caught. Was that on the?
Or clenched his fist and really just punched the ball, 30 yards away from his goal. Although to be honest, even though he's kind of stopped the ball going in under the crossbar at that point, there's still a lot for Spurs to do to score. And I think our defending was, particularly by Ben White, was quite weak, because when the ball gets played back into Maddison, he makes the first movement and then he takes quite a heavy touch on it. And then I'm almost waiting to see Ben White or one of our defenders come in and take the ball off Maddison's toes and knock it out for a corner or something like that, or shield the ball out for a goal kick. But yeah, I don't know where Ben White was in that. I feel like his positioning was not right, because James Maddison did take a heavy touch on it as he got kind of near the goal. It wasn't a great touch, and I don't really blame Gabriel that much, because I just think Son was quite clinical. He took up a good position, and he's just very mentally alert. Son, to kind of opportunities in the box. He's a real opportunist kind of striker, and he does tuck the ball kind of nicely away on the angle. But I am looking at Ben White there, thinking James Maddison's taken a really heavy touch on that. Why is someone not in there kind of mopping up the danger? So yeah, disappointing. The timing of the goal just before the end of the half. But to be honest with you, we probably did have the clearer cut chances, but I don't think we really played so well that it warranted us going in ahead. So when it was 1-1 at half time, you're not sitting there going, oh no, we're screwed now. I kind of sat there at half time going, 1-1's probably kind of fair. We started off the game okay, had some good chances, but they were starting to look quite dangerous as the half.
For me,
as the half went on.
For me, the goal that they scored, what I found really frustrating is that it all sort of stemmed from a hoofed ball upfield from Maddison to find Kulusevski. And this is something that I noticed yesterday, is that, again, Zinchenko, as great as he is as a player, from a defensive standpoint, his positioning can sometimes, the way that he inverts, he leaves a lot of space. And this is what's happened here. Maddison's it's a really sort of hoofed ball, in the direction of our goal with no sort of accuracy. And Kulusevski picks it up and then, plays it down, brings it back to Sarr, who gets that cross in. And I just think, I love the inverted way that Zinchenko plays, but it can, well, as it did yesterday, it leaves us quite open sometimes. And it wasn't the only time that sort of happened yesterday, where we're like, well, hang on a minute, we're having to rush across you to cover for Zinchenko. It is a bit high risk, especially when you've got a team that are, they were quite clearly, after the first 20 minutes or so, quite clearly capable of keeping the ball for prolonged periods of time. So it was just disappointing that that sort of like long, Route 1 style football caught us out a bit. I've
got a lot of time for that kind of football, to be honest with you. I think the one thing watching Arsenal, it does get quite frustrating at times, is the overplaying, the very choreographed way. But actually, if Arsenal tried that, I feel like we've got Jesus running in behind, and Nketiah can do that as well. He's probably not quite as pacey, but he can play on the shoulder. And I've got a lot of time for a nice early. It's not long ball in the old crazy gang style. It's kind of controlled stuff, in my view. It's quality long ball passing, kind of unlocks it. But half time 1-1. Shit time to concede, obviously, but
concede at that point as well. Like a few minutes before half time was horrible.
Yeah,
horrible.
Very bitty and sort of scrappy, wasn't it? But and then obviously start. Let's move on to the second half. Obviously the most noteworthy thing there was Declan Rice and Fabio Vieira coming off, and we both sort of looked at each other, sort of almost at the same time, and oh Jesus Christ, like the absolute spine of our team is sort of we've got Jesus shunted out to the left. We've got Rice now off the field and Vieira on. I didn't think Vieira kind of blew me away in the first half, to be honest. I don't think I wasn't actually desperately gutted to see him go off. I thought, it's an opportunity, but I saw it as more of an opportunity for Havertz, although it was obviously, as much as I think Jorginho's a good squad player,
But I don't understand.
Obviously, gutted to see Rice go.
I mean, the Rice one, that's a hammer blow, because I mean, you picked it up in the first half that he didn't seem to be having much impact as he normally does, and maybe that's the reason, whether it's a back spasm or a calf strain or something. But that was a hammer blow, because as much as a good player Jorginho has been in the past, and I know he's still capable of a good game here and there, in a game of this magnitude, the quality, the difference in quality is immense, and they are not. He does not offer the same sort of coverage that Rice does. I mean, the Havertz one, I just don't see what he's offered in the games preceding this one that would go, oh, do you know what? He's got something that we can that Vieira hasn't shown already this part of the season. I think Vieira has done a lot more in the games that he's been playing than Havertz has, and this is coming from someone that was very critical of Vieira last season. I just think that you've got to take the players as they are now, and right now Vieira for me is head and shoulders above Havertz in the pecking order. I just don't see what Arteta thought Havertz was going to bring to the game. It just doesn't. I just don't get it.
It was put down as tactical reasons as to why Fabio Vieira was sacrificed. What do you think those tactical reasons were? What do you think?
This is it. I don't know. I don't know what he does. I don't know what Havertz going to offer to the game. I mean, people keep going.
What did you think that Vieira didn't offer then in that case, from a tactical perspective? Obviously, he doesn't have that physicality to his game.
Yeah, but then people talk about the physicality for Havertz, but he doesn't put himself about a bit. It's like he's like the tall kid at school, that's really sort of long and like, but you blow at him and he fall over, sort of thing. It feels a bit like that with Havertz, and I just think that I don't know. I mean, Vieira, technically, I think he's capable of opening up defenses a bit more and playing between the lines. Havertz, I haven't seen. I couldn't tell you what he's offered the team in the games that he's had.
No. I think some of his off the ball work has been decent, but nothing to write home about. I did notice yesterday he was losing a lot of duels. He was kind of like, to your point there, he was kind of going up alongside players that are probably not dissimilar in terms of physicality to him, and he was coming off second best. I mean, I assume is quite a strong midfielder, but Maddison you wouldn't say was powerful and full of strength, and he was able to kind of run the game through the midfielder life. I do feel that we were probably more dangerous in the wide areas, and Maddison was kind of running the show up the middle, and that's where you want to see Havertz come on and put himself about. I mean, I kind of feel sorry for Havertz in some respects, because I think he was bought, and you have to say, like, Arteta's got a vision. It's on Arteta to bring that vision to life. You can't take a guy that's been playing on the wide areas of the front line or as a false nine and go, right, you're now my number 8. That's quite a big leap. So an element of patience is going to be needed. But if Arteta's seen this, it's now incumbent on Arteta to make it work, particularly at the kind of money that we paid for him. And I'd almost be not blaming Havertz. I'd almost be looking at Arteta and going, why did you buy him then? Why did you take such a
we could have bought a striker. We could have used that money to buy a proper striker. That would have.
Yeah, or he could have bought another midfield 8 who's been a midfielder his whole career, maybe just had to make a relatively small leap to get to what Arteta requires of that position, versus taking a guy that was a false 9 at Chelsea and a bit part player there really, and making him play as a midfielder. It's a big leap, to be honest, and Arteta's not got it right so far.
I think all Arsenal fans would probably say that if they were given the opportunity and if players were fit, the midfield trio would be Partey, Rice, and Ødegaard. I think we'd all probably put that down as our 3 to play there. But obviously circumstances have meant that Partey's missing once again. it's a bit frustrating because I do think Rice has got a bit more in his locker than just being that sort of anchor at the base of midfield, and I do think that he can. We've seen it already. His reading of the game, his anticipation is. It's almost unrivaled, the way that he can, anticipate and, recover, the speed at which he's able to recover. I didn't have him down as such an athlete that he is. He's really, really impressed me in the games that he's been with. But I just think that we're now we're trying to, squeeze these and fit these players in, Havertz and Vieira, and I just don't think the balance is quite there in the midfield, and for me it's taking away from Ødegaard a bit as well, because I don't think he's really been firing on all cylinders as yet this season. I mean, I know he's had a couple of assists and a goal or two, but it's not quite the same energy and spark that was there last season, really, for me.
Yeah, that's the problem when you're trying to fit someone in. When you're trying to, like, if you want Havertz to be more of your number 10, and you're then asking Ødegaard to play more defensively, that compromises Ødegaard's game, and he's arguably our best player as well. So for me, he's him and Saka are our most consistent performers. But yeah, this is the other challenge. I mean, and what's going to be interesting is when Partey does finally return, is he now going to
right back, wouldn't he?
Is he going to admit defeat? And because I think you could free up Declan Rice a lot. I didn't have Declan Rice down as particularly athletic. My concern around him before he joined was his mobility, but it's very kind of understated how he kind of moves around the pitch. So I'd like to see it. I'd like that midfield to be given a handful of games. And I think that's the perfectly balanced midfield for me.
Yeah,
one guy is happy to sit, can just distribute and pass the ball through the lines. You've got a guy who's got a bit more of an engine on him, can go up and down. And I think Declan Rice can offer a bit more goal threat than Havertz at the moment, to be honest. And then you're putting Ødegaard in his position where he's most effective.
Yeah. See,
anyway.
Why aren't we involved in the coaching? It's there. It's plain to see. It's unbelievable. Anyway, so moving on, the pen.
Yes.
Pen that wasn't a pen, that was a pen. Well, where do you stand? Because I'm crystal clear on this. I think it's an absolute pen. It's a goal-bound effort.
In 2023, for me, it's a pen. I mean, I would say that pen maybe wouldn't have been given even as recently as, say, 3 to 4 years ago, to be honest, because I feel now they're not really. It almost feels nowadays that any arm away from the body is basically deemed unnatural position. Ben White's hit the ball down into the ground. It's kind of, Romero's kind of twisting and puts his arm up, and it does strike his arm, obviously, and it's given for the unnatural position. But I do feel that even if this was, say, 2 seasons ago, I do feel that the proximity, I do feel there needs to be a rule. If they can measure distances on pitch with calibrated lines, why can't they measure distance from where the ball was struck to where it hit someone's arm? Because we're talking like a meter away. It's unlucky, I would say, but I think by the letter of the law and the rules of the game and how they are today, it is a penalty. But I would say, proximity needs to be looked at in the rules, in my view, because that ball's it's not exactly thrashed up at him. It's kind of bobbled up and bounced onto his hand, but it's very close. He's not realistically going to be able to pull his arm out of the way anyway from that kind of distance. I mean,
the way that his arm is positioned, he can't do anything about that. For me, it's almost a natural position for his arm to be in. But regardless of that, and albeit that, it's difficult to be in any other position with your body at that point when you're trying to go for a ball, his arm is stopping the ball from going into the net, because that would have been a goal. If his arm wasn't there, if he hadn't done what he'd done, that would have been a goal. So I think that is where, for me, it's a clear penalty. I think the law would say, if it's a goal-bound effort that's stopped, even, I mean, if your arms are behind your back, then you can sort of understand that. But if your arms are out here and you've stopped a goal-bound effort, it's gonna be a penalty. So for me, definite penalty. I mean, Ben White, I think if he just hit it a lot cleaner, just would have smashed it into the net, we wouldn't be having this. But the penalty, I mean, I love the penalty. I mean, bit of mind games going on as well with Vicario as well, and Saka, he's trying to show Saka one way, and Saka just very sort of calmly, nonchalant, sort of just lifts it just slightly through to the middle. It was wonderful, wonderful penalty.
Yeah, there was sort of an element of disguise to it almost, because he was almost pointing his body in a way that he was going to put it into the corner, but he was able to kind of use the same kind of technique to do so, but then
beautiful
sort of change the angle of it at the last moment and sort of clip it down the middle. I'm a big fan of a penalty struck down the middle, to be honest. Not too many of them actually get saved. I mean, when they get saved, they look absolutely terrible. But
I know,
it was a great penalty, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then we I think it was 1 minute 33 seconds.
Yeah. Comes crashing down. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what to say about this. Complete and utter individual error, inexcusable mistake, under no pressure. You shouldn't be conceding a chance like that. And it's not like he didn't have any outs to begin with. There are at least 3 or 4 passes that he could have picked before Maddison was starting to sort of pressurize him and trying to be cute with the ball to try and. It's just awful.
Yeah.
It's a horrible thing
to watch. I felt it was very out of character for him, to be honest, because when I watched Jorginho play, he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that tries to do showboating. He plays the game in a very efficient, almost percentages way, where he doesn't try and dilly-dally, he doesn't try and do step overs and silly shit on the ball. He's very technically very adept. He's a good passer. So when the ball did find its way back to him, I at no point did I go, uh-oh. No, I wasn't looking at him as like as a flight risk, as someone who was going to do, have that happen to him. But he just couldn't. He just got his feet mixed up and sort of try to turn and sort of and he got ball nicked away, and in the end it was just a simple ball to the side for Son, who just basically passed it into the net.
Easy finish for him. He was never going to miss that. Once Jorginho had been caught, I thought, it's done. That's going to be.
But I think, but you commented about this in the game though when it did go, and you said there's plenty of time, and we're still on like 50 odd minutes, and I think if you were to ask me why am I really frustrated about this game, I do think it's in the lack of second half performance, because we were shaken by having Declan Rice taken out of the squad, taken off at half time. I think that's, and let's be honest, we're a bit mentally weak with stuff like this. We don't really always have the ability to kind of shrug off disappointment. We seem to be quite vulnerable to like little kind of, if the wind's not blowing in the right direction, we have a bit of a freak out. That's kind of the sense I get with Arsenal sometimes. So to have Rice whipped out at half time probably did affect us. But I'm still looking at it as you were, thinking, right, it's still good half an hour, 40 minutes here to, we're the home side. It's still only 2-2. We're going to have a spell, but there was no, at least in the first half, we could say that we created 2 or 3 really decent chances. We were trying to press. We're playing with a certain level of trying to get on the front foot. But the second half, I feel like we were sleepwalking through the whole half. I feel like the game could have easily finished 3-2 to them, or even 3-2 to us, but we weren't taking enough control of our destiny. Because for me, the game was still there to be won for the home side.
If anything, we looked more ready to lose it after they scored the goal. They had a couple of chances. It was a cross that got blocked out towards the end. I think we were lucky to still have 11 men on the field. I think I've seen the Nketiah challenge back a few times, and I do think it probably was a red card. It was very naughty. It's a terrible challenge. He's not a violent player, but I just think he got frustrated. He starved of anything really worthy to sort of shout about. And I think, when Nelson came on for Jesus, I remember the both of us were like, oh, that's just the wrong change. We should have had Jesus up front, trying to cause a bit of havoc. But I can only think that they were trying to protect Gabriel Jesus a bit. Obviously, just coming back from quite a lengthy period of time off, so maybe they're just trying to manage his game time a bit. But Nelson looked all right when he came on, but yeah, there just wasn't anything, was there? Anything really to shout about? Nothing to sort of put
No.
your hand on and go, oh, come on, let's have a go at this. This it's a North London derby. We're at home. We should be the ones sort of, trying to force the, just do something. It was so frustrating to sort of watch because it's
Yeah, and
yeah.
sorry, mate, go
No, carry on. I've done ranting.
on. Oh, I've got plenty more in my locker for this game. No, but I think this is where the idea of having your starters and not have the idea of not calling them subs but calling them finishers. Like when you start with Jesus and Nketiah on from the start, you don't really have and Smith Rowe's had such precious football that any football he does have at the moment is still trying to get up to match fitness and rhythm. So for me, we didn't even when I looked at Spurs' bench, I mean, I know we laugh about him, but they still had like a Brazilian international striker to come off the bench. And I'm looking out saying, well, our two recognised strikers have been on since the start and they're blowing out of their arses. So I would love to have seen Smith Rowe obviously get the third goal and become a match winner, but I didn't expect it because he's still finding his way. Reece Nelson's not had much football whatsoever. So for me, with the combination of the injuries that we've
There's
got,
no options, is there?
yeah, there's nothing off the bench that you can go right. Here we go. Whereas if this was Smith Rowe from the beginning of last season or the season before, you could go right. This guy's a match winner. He's a potential
Yeah.
goal scorer to come on, and I think if Smith Rowe had been used a bit more in maybe some of the preceding matches against Forest and Fulham and things like that, maybe you bring a bit more of a fluid, up to speed Smith Rowe off the bench, and maybe he can do something for you. I actually feel that that's on Arteta as well. I feel like him bringing Smith Rowe on now and Smith Rowe not being able to offer anything, that's on Arteta's. He's had plenty of times in the preceding matches. I know our games have been tight by the odd goal and things like that, but I feel like Smith Rowe could have easily have had 45 minutes against PSV, for example.
Yeah.
And I think because he's had this lack of game time, that when he does come on, I'm now looking at him thinking, well, you're not. I'm not now confident you're going to come on and win the game for us. And Reece Nelson a bit more so. He looks a bit more match fit and sharp, but yeah, I think this is part of the issue. This is where we're paying for that lack of game time for Smith Rowe in previous.
I think Smith Rowe should be getting in front of Havertz. I think right now, I think Havertz isn't offering anything, and Havertz needs to earn that spot. I've said it a million times, but I'll say it again. Smith Rowe is good. And a game like yesterday, we've got one of our own young blood, youth players gone through the academy. This game is going to mean more to him than it would do than Kai Havertz. And if you brought Emile Smith Rowe on at halftime, I think more stuff. There would have been more to shout about, I think, rather than having Havertz in there. I genuinely feel that. I really do. Even as rusty as he would have been, he had his little cameo on Wednesday for a bit, and I thought, okay, maybe you can start integrating him a bit more. But going back to your point, this is definitely on Arteta for me. He needs. He wanted the squad. He wanted more quality. He's got some of the depth there. I mean, I know we've got the injuries now, but it's almost like they haven't played for so long that he now doesn't trust them. And it's like, that's on you, mate. You need to use your squad.
Yeah. I mean, the only mitigation I can think of is that because we've been winning the games by the odd goal, like every single game has been, like Forest scored with like 5 minutes to go. We drew against Fulham with 5 minutes to go. We beat Man United in injury time at the end there. I do the only mitigation I can think of is that was the game state in such a way, like if we're winning 2-0, looking quite comfortable and solid in a game, maybe you bring an unfit Smith Rowe into those games. Maybe Arteta didn't feel like he could use him in games which were really going down to the wire. But Havertz has been such an unmitigated disaster so far that anything's better than that, I would say. But
yeah,
and I admire him kind of trying to stick to, you buy a player for 65 million, you're trying to be patient, and I think there's still got to be an element of patience. And when you're winning games by the odd goal, you can still afford to take these risks. You go, well, we're still winning, so let's persist with Havertz. But I do feel yesterday, has now opened us up to now some changes. I think. I mean, obviously some of them will be injury enforced, but I think now he might have to look at committing to Vieira for a few games, or giving Smith Rowe a chance off the left, or something like this. I think it needs. I don't think it needs a wholesale change, but I think it just needs a few sort of tweaks in the right direction.
I think
to sort of find what we're going to be this season.
I watched match of the day 2 back. They brought up a nice little stat thing that I had a little look at as well about Arsenal's attack this season. So our shot conversion rate in the games so far is just 12%. Just 12% in the games we played. And if you compare that to the rest of the league, we're 8th in the league on that. So something is definitely not clicking and working. And I've got to say, I think it's us trying to fit. He's taking away what we did so well last year by trying to squeeze more out of the players that he's trying to fit into the squad this season. It's just not working. Things like, what are we like? If I look at this thing here, we've got like big chances created, 13. We're 12th in the league on things like this. It's just not clicking, and the evidence is there now for this to sort of to make changes now. It's just not happening, and we've got to sort of change tack. Otherwise, suddenly a 4-point gap is going to be a 7-point gap, and then trying to overturn a 7 or a 10-point gap is going to be insurmountable. It's just not going to happen. I just don't think so. I do think he needs to change things up tactically and strike a more balanced approach to this.
What would be your approach then? Let's say Partey's going to be out for like another, say, 2 or 3 weeks. What would you do in those intervening weeks if you had to? Like, would you do a slightly unfit, undercooked Smith Rowe? Or would you continue trying to feed him in a bit? Or
if he doesn't start Wednesday, I think his days are numbered at the club. I mean,
I think he will start, to be honest.
He's got to start Smith Rowe on Wednesday away to Brentford. Numbers, we're thin on the ground now for numbers, so I can see him starting. I can see him and Nelson both starting. Maybe Smith Rowe on the left, Nelson on the right, because I think Saka probably not. He picked up a bit of a knock, it looked like, towards the end of the game as well yesterday. So, and rumours are rife that he'd been carrying an Achilles problem since the beginning of pre-season or tail end of last season. So you've got to give him a bit of a rest. Don't kill the man. He's so important for us. Saka and Ødegaard, if they get a lengthy injury, we can kiss goodbye to any sort of challenge, in my view. So I think if I'm taking Wednesday, I think you play Smith Rowe for 65, 70 minutes on Wednesday with the view of him then maybe starting on the weekend away at Bournemouth. Genuinely, I would, because if Trossard's still out, Martinelli's still out, there's a berth there on the wide left, and I think probably Smith Rowe is more natural to play there than Nelson, in my view, because he's done it over the summer as well, and he has played there before. I think if you put Smith Rowe and Ødegaard alongside each other, I mean, I just don't see it working personally. I think maybe, well, hopefully Rice is back. I think we could see Jorginho play midweek as well.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, I know a lot of people don't care about the Carabao Cup, but
I think we should look at. I want to go on trophy, man.
My frustration with Arteta actually is we won the FA Cup when he joined, but since then I feel like he sort of chucked in the domestic cups a bit. I feel like we've been getting knocked out early. I think we got knocked out in the 3rd round last year to Brighton. And this year, it's a tough draw. Like, we're away at Brentford, one of the Premier League's better sides. So I'll be honest, if we go out on Wednesday night, I mean, I appreciate we've got injuries now, we're thin on the ground, and there's certain players we definitely don't really want to see. Like, we ideally don't want to see Saka. We don't want to see Rice. We don't want to burn out certain players, and there'll be a lot of. But I definitely do not want to see Arteta just chuck this in, because I get the feeling Brentford are going to play a fairly strong side, because for them that probably represents their best chance of some silverware this season. So I want us. I really want us to go through on Wednesday. I don't want us to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want us to strike the right balance of resting players. I don't want to see Saka in the starting lineup for for anything. But if we chuck it in and go out, I'm not going to be happy, to be honest. I don't think we're going to win the Premier League this season. I think we'll be a bit of fun in the Champions League. But for me, the domestic cups are probably a good opportunity for us. And
Yeah.
so I think this is going to be a tricky game on Wednesday. I really believe that.
Here's my lineup then. Here's my 11. So I think it'll be Ramsdale will play. I think he has to play, doesn't he? It'll be Ramsdale. I'd be surprised if Zinchenko plays. I could see Kivior doing the left back role. Or will he do the left back role? Or maybe Tomiyasu might be there. And then he'll play Kivior in the middle alongside Saliba. And then maybe Ben White still on the right. Or maybe
please don't, please.
No,
Please don't do.
Maybe Ben White. And then in the midfield, I can see Jorginho. Oh, bugger. We're thin, aren't we? Thin. I mean, El Neni, will he? I mean, he hasn't played since. I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw him in an Arsenal shirt. So it'll be Jorginho at the base, and then probably Ødegaard, and then maybe Vieira or Havertz, maybe. I don't know.
And this could be a good game for Havertz to.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking.
Do something,
And then
could be
Nelson and Smith Rowe on the wide, and he'll probably stick with Nketiah and give Nketiah a go because for the same reason that it might be a good game for Havertz, it could be a good game for Nketiah to try and get a goal because that man desperately needs to put the ball in the back of the net right now.
Yeah, he's gone off the boil a bit. But yeah, the big game really is Bournemouth, isn't it? At the weekend, we need to get back to winning ways in that. And I mean, Arsenal keep a lot of the medical updates very close to their chest these days. But I'd like to think that Martinelli can't be a million miles away, and maybe Thomas Partey as well. But I think just having someone that can do that left-hand side attacking role, and just if we can have Thomas Partey in that midfield, it might just kickstart that midfield again, and then suddenly we can be looking to bring Havertz off the bench maybe and playing him as a false nine if we're winning, or play him in the wide areas and try and feed him in. Because at the moment, I think the more that I appreciate he didn't start yesterday, but the more that he kind of plays and fluffs his lines, there's a lot more frustration building, and I'd be more inclined to kind of try and just look after the player a little bit and feed him in. But unfortunately now we don't have the luxury of available fit and healthy players. That's the challenge. But yeah, I think it'd be great to get a couple of these, because to see Cedric and El Neni on our bench is just, I know we've got a bit more depth than last season, but my God, I don't want to see those players. I mean, I don't even think El Neni should have been given a new contract. I know it sounds harsh, but the guy's a millionaire already. Why are we giving him another contract when he's not going to play?
I mean, it's numbers, isn't it? He's obviously quite happy to play. He knows his position in the squad, and he's obviously quite happy to do it. And I mean, it shows no ambition from him as a player, but for the money he's on, he's probably quite cheap now. I would think 35, 40 grand maybe a week, maybe a bit more, but giving him another 12 months, 18 months, it's just probably not going to do too much damage. And I quite like the numbers, to be honest with you. Although, why not bring some youth players through? Why do we have to get rid of Charlie Patino, I mean,
I don't know. I think the problem with people like El Neni and Cedric is they are blocking the pathway for we've got Ruel Waters, who's a right back, he's quite well thought of in the academy, and then and I know there's that fine balance between a bit of experience, but I'd much rather see Waters in the squad and maybe chuck him in at right back against Brentford, or bring him on at half time or something, see what he's about. We can't be blocking the pathway for some of these Hale boys. With I mean, I love El Neni. I think he's been a good servant to the club. Pivotal and FA Cup final win a few years back. But his time's done. Like, if you want to give him some money, just give him the 1-year contract value of money and get him to
Just
do one. Because I don't know. I've got nothing against the guy personally, but I don't really like this mollycoddling kind of culture. I just think it's like, no, he's done now. Yeah, I mean, I think with Partey there and Rice and Jorginho, I think we're covered in that position. We don't really need that player. I don't think he really brings a lot of value. And Cedric's just there for a payday and a good time. I mean, it's just there's just no point, is there? The last, hopefully, of these Bosmans we signing on high salaries is what I'm hoping.
Yeah. So predictions, how did we do? Well, I think we both did terribly. I think
we both ballsed it up. Both ballsed it up as usual. I had Arsenal to win by 2 clear goals. You had Arsenal to win with a goal involvement from Jesus. To be honest, yours was closer. It could have gone that way. If he'd not fluffed his lines in the first half. But so far this season we've done 6 predictions each. We both had 1 right, and the other 5 have been down the pan. But anyway, let's move on to Brentford. So give me your prediction for Brentford.
I don't know is the answer. I really don't know. I thought about it earlier. I thought I was going to come on and go, they're going to win on penalties. But
what about Ramsdale to do a match-winning save and David Raya to get up off the bench and go like this?
Yeah. What do I think? Ooh, this is a hard one to call.
This is great podcasting content as well. I'm gonna jump in then. I'm just gonna take the ball by the horns and give it a go. I'm gonna say that Fabio Vieira will have a goal involvement and will win.
I'm gonna say the same, but with Nelson rather than Vieira.
Yeah. I feel like Fabio Vieira is due a goal.
You watch now. Kai Havertz will get a hat-trick.
I'll happily take that, to be honest.
The club shop will sell out of shirts with his name on the back.
Yeah, they'll be queuing up around the block.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, Reece Nelson goal involvement and we win. I do have a sneaky feeling though it might go to extra time and like penalties because there's no replays, are they, in this early round? It's like on.
No.
It's done on
the fixtures backing up. But do you know what? I know I'm in a minority saying this, but I really don't want us to chuck this in. I want us to.
I don't either. I want us to have it's
my target for Arsenal this season is a trophy. Some Champions League qualification and a trophy of some description. I feel like we need to win. I know we've not been great so far, but when all the players are fit, we've still got a very good squad. I think for us to not win something would be underachievement given the trajectory we've been on. So, and if we go out of this,
it's 30 years since we won it, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, 1993 we last won the League Cup against Sheffield Wednesday. Steve Morrow.
Oh, the arm broke. Was it his arm?
Yeah, Big Tone chucked him, spear tackled him on the Wembley turf.
Spear tackle.
Oh God.
Jesus, man. Yeah, we need to win 30 years. That's just for the League Cup. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I suppose we've been too busy racking up the FA Cups. That's why.
And doubles and invincibles and things like that. But yeah, like we got to pick a strong enough team to get past Brentford. I think we've always got to also hope that they're going to rest a few players as well, to be honest. I think if Brentford play a slightly weakened side and we do, then I'm going to start to feel a lot more confident. But if they stick with a first choice 11 and we do too much rotation, I'm going to be a bit more, this could be a bit of a tight one.
Yeah, but they're not on great form, are they, at the moment? Didn't they get beat at the weekend? They got beat at home to Everton. It was 3-1 Everton, wasn't it?
Oh, they did, yeah. So you never know. It's going to be a tough one. But let's see how we go, shall we?
There we go. Yeah. I think that wraps it up, doesn't it?
Yes, I think so. And as ever, thanks for everyone joining us. I hope you enjoyed the content. Please do like and subscribe. It's been a lot of fun doing these episodes, and we want to obviously continue to grow things. So like, subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. A few comments here and there wouldn't go amiss as well. And fingers crossed up the Arsenal for Wednesday night against Brentford.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks, Moody Gooners. We'll see you on the next one.
Next one.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.